I'd like to call the April 3rd bid board meeting to order. We have a quorum. First item is the minutes from the March 6th meeting. Any questions or changes? Motion, do we have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 1 on the agenda, financial report. Adam.
All right, 2018 balance as of March 28, 2018. You'll see that the revised budget $96,248.40 with an actual $33,522.67. Total encumbrances of $34,600 and available $28,125.73.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 2, presentation by the Commons for the vacant space project. If I could go up to the microphone so Patrick can hear you, and sorry for the cramped space.
All right. I was saying how comfortable these chairs are. We're going to say we're kind of like a doo-wop group here with the three of us crowded around. I like it. This is...
That would be to move the slides along, but I'm realizing it's a PDF. So,
Look at that.
Oh, still works.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks for having us. I'm Michael Hosted with the Commons. This is
Maggie Russ.
Joe Peschel.
If you guys can get closer to the mic, that would be great.
Sure.
Smooth.
Just some background. We've been meeting with Adam over the past month or two. I gave a presentation along with Mike Lovell, the president at Marquette University at an economic development conference here in West Bend at West Bend Mutual last year, towards the end of last year, talking a little bit about the Commons and what we do, and we'll provide you with an overview of that in just a minute. Through that, got connected to Adam, and we started meeting and talking about what opportunities might exist here in the West Bend area to leverage the sort of collegiate student talent we're bringing together via this program. So we've been doing some brainstorming and having some fun with that, and I understand that you all have a sense for what we're proposing. So we're here today to give you a little bit more information about what the Commons is in general, but then more specifically dive into the sort of event we're proposing to do here in West Bend in the fall. So a little bit about the program, and maybe you can jump in as we go here. We've brought together students from 24 colleges and universities in the area to respond to some questions about talent retention, talent development within the region. The Commons is part of a larger organization called the Greater Milwaukee Committee, which is a civic organization in Milwaukee. It's a membership organization consisting of about 190 CEOs in the area. We focus on a variety of different topics, but they generally fall into 3 buckets. One is economic prosperity, the other is vibrancy of place, and the third is talent and innovation. The Commons is sort of the flagship program within our talent and innovation pillar, and it was created to respond to our members who are executives and CEOs saying, you know, if we're going to be innovative companies, if we're going to be leaders in our industry, we're struggling to find the sort of young, innovative talent that we need to really push our companies forward. And as the 3 of us got together and we were like, okay, I understand that problem, but look at this amazing set of assets that we have in the region. These are 24 schools within the M7 region plus Sheboygan County, representing over 185,000 students, which, by the way, is like the 5th or 6th most dense population of college students in the country. But we don't really think of ourselves as a college region per se. So our goal was to really connect these students to one another, connect them to the business community, to companies, to startups, and whatnot. And so we factored in what we call our innovation economy, and these are companies that we work with within the Commons, and you'll see a variety of large companies all the way down to startups to civic organizations and nonprofit groups that work with our program. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe and Maggie, who Joe is our program director, really oversees the day-to-day operations of the Commons, and Maggie is our community manager, who her responsibility is really to build that community, be the connection point between the talent, the companies, the business community, and the community at large. To talk a little bit about how this program works. Joe?
So about 3.5, 4 years ago, we created the Commons. We call it an Entrepreneurial Skills Accelerator. We were out to bring students together, collegiate students, and now a growing number of high school students, bring them together to help them understand the entrepreneurial mindset, what it takes to innovate, the process around all of that, apply their skills, build their network connections, and create something cool for the community. Really see something emerge in front of them as a tangible product of what they've created out of an open-ended challenge. So this entrepreneurial mindset, this is what we've heard from our corporate partners that they are looking to hire for. It's the ability to work together on a team, communicate effectively, think critically, creatively, but then have that grit, that flexibility, going into an ambiguous situation and being able to figure things out. Really taking their own education into their hands and saying, I want to do something interesting with all of that. Can you talk a little bit about some of our programs?
Sure. So we run our core skills accelerator program, but through our connections with a lot of the companies, we've been able to innovate ourselves and create new programming as different ways to interact with our students. So this summer, or I should say last summer, we started our Innovation Fellows program. So it was sort of that what's next step after someone goes through our core program. We give them an intensive experience with those 3 companies last summer. It's just basically an opportunity for a student to act basically as an innovation consultant. So it was a really cool program. We're expanding that this summer. So it's just another thing to keep building that pipeline past our core program. We've done crazy things like the destination innovation, where we literally were innovating on a plane. So this was a partnership with Southwest Airlines and Kohl's, and we gave them sort of like a mini challenge over about 48 hours. So they worked again in teams, and we flew the students to different hubs for Kohl's, so still tying them back to a strong Milwaukee and Wisconsin company, but letting them just see how a local company continues to innovate and do really cool creative things. And then our Hacket Bracket, which we'll dive into all the details, has been our iteration of what people, a hackathon. So that's been something you'll hear a lot in the startup and innovation space, but we wanted to do something better, and so this is what we've created as other programming, a good entry point for us with new companies that we're working with, and just a really great way to build a pipeline of students who maybe haven't interacted with us before. They get to know us a little bit, and then we can hopefully get them into our 9-week program.
Yeah, so Maggie mentioned this 9-week program. That's kind of what we consider our core. It's our skills accelerator. We've now done 7 cohorts of that. We've taken through over 575 students. We've built up a mentor network for them to build new connections, local professionals. Over 450 of those. We've built 80 different new businesses or new products for existing businesses, and great diversity metrics, nearly 1-to-1 male to female ratio, 35 to 40% students of color, and then an age diversity that will range from a 17-year-old freshman to a 56-year-old returning student going through one of our technical colleges.
And that's really, the diversity is what the students really like a lot about the program. It gives them a sense of what it's like to work on a team that is not a group of their peers, essentially, that is what they're used to on their collegiate campus. When students apply into their program, there's 3 things we do not ask them. One is their degree program, the other is their year in school, and the third is their grade point average. Instead, we're asking them about how they work together on teams, how they solve conflict, how they creatively solve problems. Those are the sorts of things we're looking for. We're looking for the passionate, motivated, and interesting students into this program. So some of the best students are those solid C students that are really crushing it in the program, and we're proud of the diversity that comes through the program as well. As a result, over 90% of our students say that they've made key professional connections as a result of working through the program. That could be through our mentor network, that could be through a connection we make with them where students get a cup of coffee with a business leader and make that connection. And that's all building to what this is really about, which is a talent retention play for us. So 81% of our students are more likely to seek jobs here straight out of college. Many of our students, when they first walk into the program, have plans to leave not only the region but the state, not because they don't like it here, but because they think there aren't opportunities for them here. And so we set out to change perceptions, both among the mindsets of students who think that there's nothing here for them, who have perceptions about companies that they've grown up with in their backyard, or have no perceptions about companies and just don't know anything about them. On the flip side of that, we're changing perceptions among our corporate partners who are realizing that maybe some of their hiring practices need to change because they're hiring students out of this program that they acknowledge that have made it past the first round of a resume review. So we're starting to really change those mindsets and perceptions on the part of both our students that work with us and our corporate partners. So let's talk a little bit about what we're thinking about doing here in West Bend in terms of the format. Maggie mentioned that our Hacket Bracket is sort of our take on the traditional hackathon. So Joe, maybe you can walk us through that process. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I'll let you know a little bit more about what a hackathon is. So in the tech startup innovation world, I've personally participated in or ran probably 15 of these types of things. They'll range from one afternoon, I've done them in 5 hours, to an entire 54-hour, 2.5 day, I guess, thing. We did a 2-day one a couple months ago, overnight, stayed up for like 40 hours straight. And it was,
we're still recovering from
I think so. Like, I still have a cold that's lingering from that one. But the hackathon, basically, you get a challenge, and you get on a team, and as quickly as possible, you start to come up with some idea and start to build it, and at the end of the allotted time, you present your cool idea, and prizes go to the winners. It's fun, it's fast-paced, it's stressful, it brings out the worst and best in everybody that participates. But the downfalls to it is that you'll get on your team of 4 or 5 other people, you'll meet those people, that's great. But you'll only meet those people. And usually the first rabbit hole you can find, you're going down that and you're building that idea. And who knows if the first idea is always the best one? Probably not. And at the end, yeah, you present and you're kind of done. I don't know really what I learned out of these things. As an educational institution with learning outcomes, we want to make sure that students that are participating in these things walk away with something, having remembered a new tool or tactic or method. And in the traditional hackathon, it's not really based around those types of things. So we took a little twist on things. We want students walking away with those new skills, the new methods for problem solving, knowing how to work on a team, having tactics for conflict resolution, us discussing those things. We want them to build new network connections, not just the 4 or 5 people that are on their team, but as many people that are in the room as possible. We want them working on stronger ideas. So it's not just that first one that comes to mind. Instead, we want to constantly push them to come up with something more and more interesting. And then the competitive element at the end is always a good thing. So win some prizes for the top teams. So what we do is we run this in one day. And it'll be a 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. sort of thing. In the morning, we do 3 different ideation exercises that take our core challenge and approach the problem-solving process from different angles. So they're figuring out new ways to solve the problem. We select some of the top ideas out of each of those rounds. So now you kind of see how this bracket competition comes up. So it's kind of our March Madness version of a hackathon. So we select those strong ideas, and then in the afternoon we work more on those. We say, here's a rough concept that somebody liked and said that there's something good about it. Take it to the next level and pitch them, and we select the top ideas out of that. So what we're suggesting for the city of West Bend, this downtown project, is we could have a central challenge out of this. What does the future of this downtown look like, or how do we open up all these storefronts to do something? And we can craft this challenge together. Have the students do these different problem-solving processes and exercises, come up with a bunch of ideas, select some of the top ones, have them take those even further and see what comes of it. So from this, we could have, at the end of the day, 90, 120 different ideas in front of us with 9 or 10 really strong ones that have gone on even further, and we see what we want to choose as winners out of that. It's real fun, it's fast-paced, it's competitive. Students are meeting a lot of people, they're engaging highly, they're thinking about all these different issues and challenges from different angles, and coming up with a ton of different ideas for things. So I'll let you talk a little bit more about how we prepare for those.
Yeah, so what we typically do is for whatever organization that we're working with to put on this Hacket Bracket, we'll spend a couple of hours, maybe even an afternoon, with leaders from that organization to actually go through exercises similar to the students would go through in order to craft and determine what your challenge is going to be for the students. We've done this with companies like Kohler and Northwestern Mutual and Church Mutual and Milwaukee County to really go through and figure out what that challenge is going to be. It's always fun for us to kind of see what comes out of that, because not only does the group land on the challenge to give to the students, they also tend to surface maybe 4 or 5 or 6 other things that they want to kind of work together on as a group, and it gives opportunities for members of an organization to come together around crafting that challenge that may not often have the chance to work together and talk about what their challenges are within the organization. So it's kind of a fun thing to do with that organizing team. In the end, everybody walks away with a sense of shared ownership around what that challenge is going to be for the students to work on. It also helps us surface the mentors that might work with the students during the one-day Hacket Bracket. So once we kind of craft that challenge, then we go to work in promoting that and getting students to attend, as well as working with you on the logistics. In this case, I think we've had a lot of great ideas about how this event itself could activate the downtown in kind of a fun way. How could we engage the residents in the community in the form of mentors or people that the students can do some customer discovery with, ask them questions about when do you come downtown, why do you come downtown, what brings you here, what would bring you here more. That's the sort of discovery that the students will do in the morning piece of this to help really kind of hone in on what those potential solutions and recommendations will be to the challenge that you give them in the morning. So it's I think, you know, when Adam and the team were really kind of talking through what the potential could be here, we get really excited about this, because this could go really beyond a group of students and mentors to engage the community in kind of a unique way, allowing us to bring not only our students but our mentor network as well here to the West Bend area and get new faces, new people here, while engaging your current residents and people who would use the downtown anyway. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of thinking this through. We would, if you agree to move forward with this, we'd spend quite a bit of time here getting to know the community, getting to know you, and really understanding how we go about crafting that challenge so that in September, October, whenever we do this, we're really ready to put on an amazing event and hopefully land you in a position that you can build upon some of those recommendations either with us or with others throughout the community to actually act on those deliverables that will be presented as a result of the day-long Hacket Bracket. Anything else?
I'm ready for any questions,
Yeah.
or Adam, if we missed anything that you wanted to highlight, we can talk more about any of these things.
I would say numbers will probably come up pretty soon, and that's just a couple of clicks away if you guys wanted to jump into that or wait for that question to come up. That's about it.
Numbers as in cost.
Yep.
Oh, all right. Yeah. We can jump
It
into
sounds
that.
like a basically education-oriented for students. Is that the main thrust of it?
Well, certainly, yes, for the
It's coming out of
for the-
Marquette,
for the-
makes sense.
for the students, but it's also an opportunity again for them to get introduced to mentors, to a community, to opportunities here, and that's, I think, the real piece of this, as well an opportunity for the community to get introduced to some really talented students.
Yeah, we would target colleges, universities within the area, but then also outside of it, and the local high schools too. We've ran events with both college and high school students together, and honestly, they're better. It's amazing how much more comes of it the more we mix up different types of people to participate. So there's a great opportunity there, and we built some good partnerships with our local colleges and high schools in the area.
We have a few cultural things going on in West Bend right now, and I think that it would be interesting to get an outside perspective from a lot of different people as to where they see the connections between the River Walk and the theater and the old downtown, and to me it sounds really exciting.
We found that our students really are interested in civic work, so and social innovation. So when it has to do with the community-focused challenge, that the engagement. I mean, they're always engaged because they're great students, but I think it's something different when they feel like they're actually making real impact and that they could potentially see it, come to fruition. So I think that this is something that they really get excited about.
Yeah, we've been blown away by how the students will ask us, how can I apply what I'm learning in the classroom or even here at the Commons to community challenges? And so we like to present these sorts of things to the students. I think we'll have a significant turnout of students for this because I think they'll be really interested in it.
So when we originally started this conversation, it was originally talked about of coming up with ways to fill vacancies,
Sure.
which now it looks like it's expanding into more than just vacancies, but also what makes a downtown good, what can make the downtown better. Is that kind of the vision that you guys see with this, of not just the vacancy side of things, but
At the end of the day, we're going to be a creative partner with you on this.
Right.
So if your return on investment is getting a downtown strategy, we're all about that. Or if it is specifically activating certain storefronts, we got excited about both of those.
Yeah.
When we first met with Adam, it was about the storefronts, and so we were kicking around a bunch of different ideas for that. Downtown strategy is even a larger thing. You start to see some of those pieces connect, and all of this kind of come together. I think that can be really exciting. And to Maggie's point earlier, students, they like thinking about this sort of stuff. They want to impact the community around them, and if it's about a storefront or if it's about an entire downtown, I think we'll see a good engagement and creative ideas out of both of those.
so what kind of cost are we looking at?
I guess we've got, did you add that in?
Yep.
Wow.
I'm going to have to switch to the next one on the PDF.
I see.
There
we go. So, yeah. So this is a proposal, and Adam can get all of this to you, including the schedule and pretty much all of the stuff we just told you in written form. So the budget that we're looking at, and this is pretty on par with what we do for other organizations, and really gives you a really solid event. And there's a range there. Again, I think that there's opportunities here to leverage relationships and partnerships that you might have in terms of, to the extent that we can work with local companies to get food in for the students, local photographers, whatever we need to do. We want to make this something that can build the community in a variety of ways beyond just bringing the students here and doing this work. So if there's connections there among local businesses that can help us do some of these things, we would really like to do that, and that might allow us to save some money. So what we've done here is based on just kind of an average of what we've spent in the past to just give you a sense. You're not going to spend more than this, but you might spend less than this. So for the event planning and facilitation, that's the first point there, and really is our work in coordinating all of this, logistics, the bringing in the mentors, working with you all to determine what you would like to do, spending time with you here in West Bend, doing those ideation sessions. The facilities there, we may have some help with MOA and others, so this may not even be an expense we need to worry about, but there might need to be table and chair rentals, those sorts of things. Food and drink, again, this is an average, but this could be this could change depending on who we might be able to partner with locally. We feed the students breakfast and lunch, and then do a variety of snacks and food, water and soda and whatnot throughout the day. The food is sort of something we've become known for. Students and hungry college students really like the food aspect of things. It keeps them going throughout the day. Event materials, everybody will get a t-shirt. We'll have stickers for promotion, different things around that. Printed materials and signage, all the exercise materials that will need to be printed off and so forth. And then prizes, and this is where you guys can kind of have some fun with this and this line item in the budget, depending on what's available. Joe mentioned earlier that we like to give things away to some of the top ideas as students go through the process, and then towards the end, based on the presentations, these can be gift certificates, they can be actual things. We've given away Nintendos and all sorts of different things in the past. We can work with you on that, and that's really up to you on what you want to do in terms of a budget there. We've seen small budgets for prizes, and we've seen large budgets for prizes. In the end, the students are really passionate about the work that they're doing. The prizes are really just kind of the icing on the cake. So there's some flexibility there. We just put that amount in as kind of a starting point for conversation. We'll coordinate all of that. We'll coordinate all of the marketing and outreach, the student vetting. We'll provide and pay for the photography services. And again, if we want to do that with a local photographer, we'd love to work with that. Same if you've got a videographer in mind. We've seen some great videos come out of this as well for the program. So that's sort of the budget in a nutshell. And again, we can be flexible and work with you on this, but wanted to kind of give you a starting point of what we're looking at.
Just one question, going back to the participants, is this a cold call for them, or do they have preparation before they come into the activity?
That's a great question, and we've actually talked a little bit about, you have work that you've already done here in the downtown, pretty significant work it sounds like, so there could be an opportunity to share that with the students via website or what have you, where they can come in and prep and be aware of sort of the work that you may have already done here in the downtown in terms of strategy and planning, so they can come in knowing a lot of that. You can leverage the work that you've done already. We're not looking to recreate any wheels here, but really build upon the assets that you already have in place. So to the extent that we can give that to students ahead of time, we have found that they will read it and they will prepare for this. They do take this seriously.
We were also thinking about potentially working with some local architecture firms or planning firms to offer a couple of set renderings of the current downtown that students could then put their own work over it, or help create some of those images that allow us to visualize what they have in their minds.
Do some real-time rendering.
Yeah, they kind of have a little bit of a head start for that, so they're not recreating any of that core stuff,
Right.
but instead building upon something that's already there.
So you've not done this for a municipality at this point?
We are doing it with, actually this Saturday, with how many counties? We've got Milwaukee County,
I think there's like 12 counties.
12 counties that we're doing this with around Civic Hackathon, looking at different ways that technology can be applied to municipal functions. So County Executive Abley is sponsoring that along with others of his peer group from counties in the region to come together and bring students to think through different ways to apply technology to municipal functions.
What about a city of our size or just a downtown focus? Have you done anything like that before?
We haven't, no.
This
That's
will be
why we're excited.
Yeah. So like this Saturday's event that we're doing is at Ward 4, which is where we've hosted pretty much all of our events for the Milwaukee area. So this will be our first kind of in the environment. We've done other work in Sheboygan and Racine, Madison, and elsewhere, but those have all been in another co-working space or an office space or a library. This will be our first. This is the environment that we're affecting around us.
Right.
To
There's the Domes project, I guess.
Oh,
That's sort
yeah.
of we had last semester a team of students who were working on the Metro Park domes, which right now are kind of up for debate as to what will happen with them. But the National Historic Preservation, and then there was one other.
Milwaukee Preservation Alliance.
Thank you. So they were basically the sponsoring companies or organizations. So students spent some time thinking about, what they could envision, but it involved a lot of customer discovery and going around to that neighborhood and asking people how they were using them, how they wish they could have used them. That actually ended up being also a cool partnership with Southwest, that we flew them to New York, and it was all fairgrounds.
Yeah, the 1964 World's Fair
Yeah.
in Queens.
Yeah, so similar kind of, they were seeing what they had already done in that space and how they could apply some of those lessons back into Milwaukee. So I feel like that's probably the most similar in that it was one kind of set space that they were really looking at.
Yeah, they were innovating around different civic engagement practices and spending a lot of time in the Clark Square neighborhood, which is where the domes are located. So yeah, it's a great reference point. I think the other thing to note too is that over the years that we've been doing this, we've really built a lot of trust with our students. So when we let them know of different events, they come to them.
And they bring their friends.
And they bring their friends. And so I think this will be an opportunity to really get students here into downtown West Bend. And I mean, if we need to, we can talk about transportation for those students and get them up here. But I think that there's a lot that we could do, and I think we'll get a good turnout of students.
Many students from UWWC, soon to be UWM,
Yeah,
Washington County.
Yeah.
Have you had any students from there?
We have.
Yeah, this semester we've got 2 students into our 9-week course, and we usually have a couple from Washington County. Jackie Joseph Silverstein is a great partner of ours. She's the dean of the school, as well as Sheboygan and Wash.
Yeah.
Just a couple more questions on that process of the days. You talked about starting with this ideas of 100 plus. Who decides that narrowing of what's the best?
In terms of as students apply into the program, how do we handle that?
The ideas.
Oh, the
yeah.
judges.
The ideas, yeah.
Take that, yeah.
So we work with local professionals, volunteers, judges. There's really no requirement of they must be a subject matter expert. Something it's when we're working with a company, it'll be some folks from the company. This weekend we have a number of volunteers that are just interested in that technology space, and so they'll be coming in and they'll hear the 30-45 second pitch from each of the teams and select their top 3 ideas. It's usually just kind of what excites us the most, what we feel is most feasible, the desirability factor for the community, that sort of thing, selecting the top 3 from that.
But you talked about return on investment. So my daughter's participated in this kind of thing, and the ideas that come out of it are awesome. So I'm just wondering, return on investment for us, do we walk away with all the ideas or just the narrowed? Because ultimately, just what makes sense that day may not be
Yep.
everything we would want to get, because there could be some great ideas that sit in the bowl. So
Right.
what?
It's everything.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's your work product essentially, and what you're paying for coming out of this is all of those ideas. So we'll give you all of the large Post-it notes. We'll pull all that together for you and provide that with you to you, and that's another opportunity. The more mentors and engagement that you have that are listening to some of these ideas, and it may be such that an idea that never makes it up on the board, but through conversation that you might be listening to in a team, you're like going, oh man, that maybe that's not where the students are going to go today, but that could be something that 6 months down the road you really take as a bid board and do something with. So yeah, that's the value again of being a part and participating within the actual student conversations and whatnot throughout the day.
After this event, have you ever come back and done a follow-up?
Well, we've talked about that, and we've done that with a lot of companies that have led into opportunities within maybe our Innovation Fellows program, where we get a core group of students that are going to spend 4 to 6 weeks, working here in West Bend, for example, but working with you as employees of ours to serve as innovation consultants to really build upon what may come out of that one-day Hacket Bracket. The way that the programming is structured is such that this is sort of the entry point, the Hacket Bracket, the one-day event. From there, depending on what comes out of that, we can build a variety of programming around that to leverage the ideas coming out of that to really take it to the next level.
Suggested, ideas come out of bubble machines and they float into the air.
Yeah, right.
And they get you about 2 steps to first base. Ideas are cheap.
Right.
So the suggestion would be you get some internships for these kids after they're done. Get them involved in the projects. Like we've got a cultural campus going in. Some great planning going on. A couple of kids go around.
Yep.
The theater group has tons of things going on. There's a couple of interns.
Yep.
The interns are somewhat pain in the ass.
Yeah.
That's why we manage
Yeah.
our
Learn
interns.
a ton.
Yeah.
Contribute a little, but learn a ton.
Learn a ton. And, it's a lot of work in managing that too, and giving a good experience for the interns. Yeah.
You actually, could you move the screen so that it goes up so I can see what's down below? No, I'm sorry, the other.
Sorry.
So wait
Yep.
there. Wait, right there. That first line, to see the words West Bend and swag in the same sentence. That was not something I was expecting. So if you can create swag in West Bend, then yes.
Yeah, we were figuring that one of the prizes was going to be a trip to Europe from a travel agent downtown.
Well, if they can create swag, I may very well do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I think what we need to do is, I think it definitely, for me, gives me a better idea and understanding of what this is all about.
Sure. Yeah, good.
I don't know what everybody thinks, but I think the next step is for us to sit and digest all this. The last question I'd have is, if we said, hey, we want to do this in October, what kind of time frame do we need to back up to so we can say we have enough time to get this all done? And when do we need to say, yep, let's run with it?
If we look at a target in October, that gives us plenty of time over the summer months to really work
So if
with
we
it.
did something May, June, we'd be okay.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. In fact, you might win the prize of being the
Early?
longest time to prepare,
Yes.
which we love.
That would be a first.
So
That would be
that's-
really-
yeah,
that would be
that's-
really
that's
nice.
actually, that would be incredible, yeah. We've done these things in like 3 weeks sometimes, so.
What about the timing of the, about the financial, just because, of course, with this board, we have a limited budget, so this is a pretty significant investment. I get it, makes sense, so if we had some time to diversify the contributors to that expense.
Yeah.
So what is usually your commitment or need from us financially?
We've
And
got the
when-
runway to be able to cover the costs, as long as we get
A commitment,
a commitment and that by the end of the event itself.
Sure.
We're good there.
Okay.
So that's no problem.
so I heard 30-day net.
Right.
I was thinking 120.
Jeez.
Okay.
We've done that too, yeah, so. no, that's-
We would definitely need to have things like locked in and ready to go when the school year
Yeah.
starts.
Right.
For us, the biggest thing that
Yeah.
needs runway is being able to market
To
and
get to the students.
get to the students and develop the campus liaison relationships and with the high schools and colleges so that we can get students signed up.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so we have
We've got
next
some work
couple
to do.
meetings we can
Yeah.
talk about it. So I appreciate you spending your time and
Yeah.
coming up here so early in the morning.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, That was great. Thanks for having us.
If we can, Adam, you have that, so if you could get that, or is that in our?
I've attached it, I just need to publish it to the web again.
Okay. And then why don't we talk further at
In honor of our location, your presentation was on fire today.
Yes.
I like
that. Yeah. We'll work well together.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right, well, thanks for
All right,
having us.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Say hello to Mike.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you.
So item 3, we have John Trinas here to talk about the theater project. Can we get like a quick 10-minute?
Give him 45.
I'm giving you 10.
Sold.
These people have to get out of here to get to work.
Well, I can do 10. I can do 2 if you want to do 2. What do you, okay, well,
You have to go up to the mic so he can hear you.
I can
Or do you
bring
want
it
to
down.
move?
I can
You want to
bring
bring
it
it down,
down.
Tim?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
How did we get there?
well, thanks for having me. Obviously, we've embarked on a fairly heroic project here. It's going to take a lot of heavy lifting by everyone in the community. We're thinking the restoration
it?
of this historic
There's nothing
theater ought
else
to be
after
one
that
that
presentation.
involves everybody in town, literally everybody. We want the whole community involved in it. You guys, well, I'm going to have to cut this short. Let's see. Well, you know the history. The building went up in 1929. It was an iconic Art Deco theater. It did talkies and vaudeville. It converted to talkie movies, and it did silent movies. Excuse me. It started off in vaudeville, then it went to talkies until 1934. It operated under different operators till about 2006 when it was closed down. The guys who owned the multiplex south of town. It was dark. Since then, it was bought by Matt Prescott in 2012. He salvaged the building, put some roof repairs in, and kept it from falling apart. God bless Matt. And then a nonprofit organization was created in late 2016, a nonprofit corporation, 501c3. And in 2017, I came on board with my wife in late 16, and in 2017, June, we bought the building from that. So we've been out and about in the community getting ideas from everybody as to what could go in there. And lots of good ideas, and what seems to be emerging is a concept of a multi-purpose facility where we can do lots of stuff, not just movies. And I'll come back to that. We got a great board, 15 people from all walks of life, lawyers, marketeers, theater people, history people, So it's really fun working with them. The chairman is a guy named Nick Novacek. He's married to Brooke Ziegler. He's a builder, so he's got the building side nailed. He's done over 40 assisted living facilities, including the Lighthouse in West Bend. So he's an absolute pro when it comes to putting up buildings. He's the developer, and then he kicks them over to his family that does the operations. So where are we at in 18? Trying to go quick here. We went out to some of the major donors and to cultivate them and probe them to see what tripped their trigger and what they thought we needed to have in order to have a successful operation. They're very, very concerned that it be sustainable, that it not run in the black, even though it's a nonprofit, have a surplus. And so we've been working really, really hard to come up with a business model that works. We've hired, in that regard, we've hired a market analysis firm, a guy named Herb Stratford, who this will be his 14th historic theater restoration in the country, most famously the Tucson Theater. He's a pro. He's got a marketing assistant, so he's been in town. He did 6 focus groups. And then recently we ran out a survey. We got 600 responses to the survey from individuals and about 40 from businesses. So we're digging deep to see what it is the community wants and thinks should be in this building. At the same time, so that's sort of the operational side, what should we put in this place? And we're probing that in the community. I'll come back to some of the ideas that have popped up. At the same time, we hired MSI General to do phase 1 of the construction project, so you sort of got to match the uses for the building with the construction. For instance, do we want a slope floor, or do we want a flat floor, or do we want a tiered floor? All that revolves around what you do there, okay? So those 2 things are going on simultaneously. They're going to be done by the end of this month. So we'll pull those together into an operating plan, and hopefully it's a sustainable operating plan that the big donors in town can get behind. Well, all the donors in town. It's going to be big and small. We've raised about $400,000 so far, which allowed us to buy the building and do this preliminary work. Our idea is that we approach the major donors starting in about, once we get our operating plan together that's convincing and compelling. We go to the city for support. They've been very supportive so far. I appreciate the warm welcome we've had at City Hall. Because there's some things that have to happen on the front and the back of the building, and there's always infrastructure stuff. So we're going to need the cooperation of the city. Our idea is we'll spend the second half of 2018 raising the dough, and if we're successful, we'll break ground sometime in early 19 and hopefully be open by late 19. It's probably going to take the better part of a year to do the restoration. A lot of stuff. HVAC, roofs, windows, a lot of stuff. The funding will be a combination of large and small donors. We've applied for a WEDC grant through the city for $250,000. There are tax credits available both at the federal and state level of 20% each. So if you raise $2.5 million, theoretically you can raise $1 million in tax credits, which really helps. We're a nonprofit. We can't use the tax credits because we don't pay taxes, but we can sell them off at 85 cents on the dollar in the secondary market. We're applying for a historical designation. It's a very complicated process. It's underway. There's one of the guys in town named Chris Yogerst. I don't know if you know him. He's a professor at UWWC. Believe it or not, his PhD is in cinema history. So he knows an awful lot about old theaters. It's helping me write the grant on the historical. So some of the concepts that have popped up in our early, we've had lots and lots. We've had focus groups. We sat down there in Farmers Market on about 10 Saturday mornings just asking people's ideas. And some of the things that have popped up were, you might expect, classic movies on a Friday night. And then some of the senior citizens say, well, what about us? What about a matinee on Friday afternoon? Because we don't like to be out at night. And then the other one that popped up from parents was, what about matinees for kids on Saturday afternoon? Movies for kids, we can dump the kids and not worry about them like in days of old. So there will be some movies for sure. Musical gigs has popped up as a big request, some probably during the week, which would obviously spill over to the local restaurants and bars. The Kettle Moraine Symphony is looking for a gig, a place where they can operate, so we signed a letter of intent with the Kettle Moraine Symphony. They do 5 or 6 performances a year. They can't get their full 65-piece group in on the stage, but they can get groups of about 40. So they're proposing to do chamber groups of about 40 musicians. They're thrilled about it. We've had ideas like class reunions, weddings. Another one that popped up, surprisingly, just when we did the focus groups about 4 weeks ago. There's a big need for meeting space. Surprisingly, not a lot of the corporations have their own places where they can have 25, 50, 75 people. Of course, Western Mutual does, but they've got their own needs for their own space. There's some stuff. There's a room out at UWWC. There's a room at Moraine Park Technical College, but generally, not enough space for meetings. So people like Epic Creative Serigraph does not have a meeting room to handle 25 people. So we're thinking that we need some adjustable meeting space with modern HVAC, modern video and conferencing capabilities. So that would mean a flat floor, right? As opposed to a slope floor. So maybe part of it goes flat, slope. We've got all kinds of ideas. The surprising one that popped up that may appeal to some of you older guys, Herb, is what they call a dash party. So people want to have their funerals before they die. So the 1937 dash blank. And so one of the theaters in Iowa has actually had a bunch of those. So it's not as far out. All right, well, I'll just close this up for you. I think this theater is going to be a sort of a nice pivotal addition to the collection of assets downtown. As you probably all know, downtown West Bend is getting sort of trendy and sort of hot. Kids are moving in, a lot of apartments. Gee, you have to park on a side street on a Monday night or a Tuesday night. Parking, oh my God, parking, you gotta walk 100 feet. God, awful. So as Jake is a famous city administrator named Jay once said, God, I hope we have a parking problem. If we create a parking problem, that's a good thing. It's already sort of trendy and hot. So you got MOA with the 2D arts, you got a sculpture collection with the 3D arts, mostly Wisconsin history, by the way. Wisconsin artists and MOA. It's mostly Wisconsin artists in the sculpture collection. And so the thought occurred to me that maybe we ought to think about the performing arts, the history of the performing arts in Wisconsin. So we probably ought to, we have a bar, which we probably will have in the theater. We probably ought to use some of the iconic actors and musicians in Wisconsin and bring the history of the performing arts to West Bend. So now we got the 2D, 3D performing arts. We could become a hub of Wisconsin art history. So you could put Liberace in there, and Les Paul, Mark Ruffalo, who's the guy that did Orson Welles, grew up in Wisconsin, and some of the actors, Judith Light, as examples. So we could sort of center on the history of Wisconsin performing arts and match it up with the history of the 2D arts and the history of the 3D arts. And that would even tie into the historical museum. I'm talking to some of the board members over there. They're asking, can we tie the historical museum into what you're doing at the historical theater? Somehow can we cross-promote? So you can see somebody coming to this town, and instead of coming in for a couple hours and visiting MOA, or a couple hours to do a bike ride on the Azamont Trail, coming in for a weekend and doing a bunch of stuff. Hitting the restaurants, which there's another good restaurant going in downtown as we speak. So there's a collection of assets, and this theater coming along, I think, is going to be sort of pull it all together. And I think we're going to have a very, very dynamic, appealing center city. The work has been going on for 50 years, right, Herb? It's about 50 years. A lot of stuff like cleaning up the river, basic stuff that we did a long time ago. So now the river is really, really pretty and nice. So you just take a collection of many, many efforts by many, many people over half a century, and it's sort of culminating in the collection of these assets downtown. I think we ought to think strategically about that and think a little big. And then as part of thinking big, is get the theater restored. So that's sort of where we're at. I love the support of the bid district. I know you don't have a lot of money, but you got some, and we could use your, just talk it up, be supportive, be positive. When we get up and running, use the theater for your events and for your entertainment, and obviously we need donors large and small. So that sort of sums it up. That was 9 minutes.
15, that's okay. I knew if I gave you 15, you'd go to 20, so if I gave you 10. I was going to say 5, and I know I'd be there. One question I have, do you have an idea of total cost to do this, what you're trying to raise?
Yeah, the donors sort of signal, it's really hard to do that in advance, Mike, until we get the construction guys working on the numbers. You know, it's just like, I'm not construction, I could pull it out of the air, pull it out of my rear end if I wanted to. But the signal we got from the town was think about 2.5-ish. Again, they raised 3.2 for the Performing Arts Theater. That's turned into basically a school facility. The biggest fundraisers in this town have been about $3 million for the Y, $3 million for the Boys and Girls Club. The museum was 9, but that was an outlier. They raised 7 on the first round and $2 million on the Burden the Mortgage round, so it was 9. But that had a lot of money from outside of West Bend coming in. So that was just a number just pulled out of the air as something that they thought that the big donors thought would be feasible to raise here.
What's the square footage of the facility?
Pardon?
What's the square footage of the facility?
It's 150 by 50, so that's the footprint. So it's inside family. Then there's an upstairs.
Okay. Would there be an
50
elevator
wide
then?
arch.
Would there be elevator access to use that second
We
floor?
probably will need an elevator, Tony, because you think about it, there's 3 levels there. There's the river level, and if you bring in your instruments or staging, you know, you bring it in at maybe at river level. I don't know. We haven't figured out those logistics yet. You can take it up to stage level, and then if you want to use the balcony and be ADA accessible, you probably take it up another level. $50,000-$60,000 for such an elevator. So again, all that to be decided. We're going to be pulling it together in the next month or 2. Lots of ideas, and lots of homework going on, lots of data. We're going to have to pull all that together into a plan that makes sense.
But you're envisioning a stage plus a screen for movies.
Stage, and probably need to wing it out because the stage is real small. We're going to have to wing it out so we can get 40-piece symphony in there. I mean, you can get some really neat ideas. You can think about. Hopefully the city is going to cooperate with us and get rid of that alley. It's an eyesore right now. Who the hell would want it? We want it. You could maybe put the elevator there in the alley. Maybe put some HVAC stuff in the alley. So, by the way, the acoustics of this building are just about perfect. I mean, you can sit, and I've done this with donors, sit in the lobby and speak in a fairly normal voice, 7 years ago, and you can hear on the stage 150 feet away. The acoustics are perfect. So we don't want to mess with that with HVAC, so we may put that outside. It could go in the alley.
Is there any thought of putting any kind of access from the Riverside in that
Yes.
theater?
Absolutely. We like to open this up. I mean, there's so many possibilities with this building. We obviously got to be open to Main Street because that's where the action is. But, you know, there's been an effort over 50 years that hasn't worked about taking the back end of the building and face the river. The only one that's done it successfully is Kevin Schultz. He's got people coming in the back of the store. But if we could open up to the back, Larry, that would be a big deal. We're even thinking about, at stage level, cantilevering a deck out over the river. There's a cantilever on the walkway already. It's already cantilevered, right, Mike? So we put another cantilever and have a deck looking over the river. So let's say I bring in my 75 salespeople for a sales meeting, and we got a bar, and they have a drink, they light up their cigar, take a walk, literally right over the river. It could be pretty spectacular. Think about putting up our first architect had an idea of punching a bay window in the back. Turns out that's not possible because there's no barrier, there's no supports. You can't punch a hole in the middle of a straight up wall without a support. Putting a head in it just won't work. So what we might do, though, we could do, a million ideas, is put up a big digital display back there. Show movies in the summertime. advertise what we got coming up, advertise community events. It's a perfect spot for it. It's a big blank ugly wall right now.
What are you looking at for seating capacity?
It was over 450, Wayne, at one point, so it's roughly 225 down and 125 up. And the upstairs balcony is pretty steep, so the first architect we had who helped us with some conceptual stuff thought maybe we'd keep the first 3 rows, so all that's, and then use the second stuff blank off from there and use it for offices or whatever. Don't know the total answer to that.
Well, there's 200 or 300, so you brought up parking, just curious
So we're
what.
thinking 300, there was 450, we're thinking we don't need that much. And if you do a flat floor versus slope floor, you obviously have less seating. If you have tables, you could have evening theater, dinner theater.
Do you have concern about parking?
Well, I mean, I've been here 50 years and parking comes up every third hour.
Mhm.
And there's 674 spaces downtown by count, Tony. So there's a lot of stuff there. We're going to be operating mostly at night, so it's
Right.
not conflicting with the daytime hours for retailers. I always bring up Farmers Market. People will walk for how far? 7th Avenue, 8th Avenue. They'll walk 4 blocks. So if they want to get there, they'll get there. And you go to a mall in Milwaukee, you're going to walk, what, 3-4 blocks, right?
So it's a non-issue. I would see it as that way. It's a
Right
non-issue.
now, so it's getting hot down there on most nights of the week. You can't find a parking place. Translation, can't find a parking place on Main Street. But if you just go around the corner on 6th, you can always find a space. So I guess my attitude would be if we do develop a parking, as Jay Shambo said once, if we do develop a parking issue, that's a good thing. In other words, we've got so much demand downtown that we need to address the parking issue.
Yep.
Right now, I don't think it's a huge problem, especially if employees of the downtown establishments will park
That would help.
off Main Street. We had a program like that once and it worked, and I think it went away because employees want to park on Main Street, right?
We got the commons to figure that out now.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Commons can solve the parking problem. The issue is work it out for 50
All right,
years.
in the interest of, do you guys have any other questions, or, I mean, we can have them come back too, that's not a big issue, but. I appreciate
Come
the,
back if I get as much time as the Commons.
appreciate the update. Well, this was their
You're
third.
close.
You just
this
took
was
it.
their
Close,
third
yeah. You're close.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Item 4, transportation group update. Just real quickly, the group consists of myself, Larry, Tony, Jay, and Adam. We are having a meeting right after this, if anybody wants to stay and listen. We've had one meeting, and at this point, we've just been gathering information and trying to figure out a plan of attack. So we really don't have a lot to communicate at this point where we're at, other than that we are meeting, and we're going to try to do that on a regular basis. So we'll keep you guys up to date of what's going on.
Can you just tell me what it is that you're discussing?
We're discussing redoing downtown. Going back to what Kunkel Engineering had done, what the bid board had paid Kunkel to do, to look at the sidewalks, redoing the streets,
Yeah.
maybe extending down to bits and pieces. So we're just kind of looking at the whole
Okay.
area right now and trying to figure out where do we want to go, and then we'll come back to you guys for, so here's what we suggest.
Kind of like an
and then-
immediate 1 year, 3 year, 5 year.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So if there's no other questions on that, we can go on to item 5, which is spring cleanup update.
May 21st is still the scheduled date for the spring cleanup. The letter should be going out shortly, just 1 or 2 more revisions, and we're just checking on the prices to make sure that they're going to be the same as last year, if there's going to be any adjustments. And then Scott's, you guys voted on that we would use them. I'm still just waiting on a couple of revisions to that, just the wording. It was the exact same as last year, so we just wanted to move a few words around, and waiting on him to sign it, and then I'll have Larry and Mike sign that. And that's it.
Do we have a sign up or something? If, like for example, I have people from my business that want to help. Do you want to have some kind of a sign up so that you know
We'll have
what's coming, or?
This will be the letter that's going out to everybody, and then on there it just says, if you can, I think it says on there about RSVPing if you're gonna help. Otherwise, it just kind of gives direction to.
I'm just wondering, so
how
you guys
handle
know
it.
how many people are gonna show up.
There shouldn't be a problem there. Let's see.
It says we can get more done if more people show up.
Right. But I would think, because I know last year we worked out a deal on food and that kind of stuff, so we know kind of ahead of time, it would probably be helpful.
Mm-hmm. And I'm working on that too.
Okay.
Get some-
Any
Did you
other
get any
questions?
input on the postcard that went out? Because there was 2 things addressed in that postcard. Did you get any feedback on it?
Just that they got it, and
Okay.
people are excited about the cleanup again. and
Good.
What happened last year, so. That's about
Okay.
I guess I just wanted to make a comment on what the Commons presented to us. Are we going to have a conversation next month about this?
I would think so,
And
yeah.
are we planning on voting yay or nay already next month? What if I have questions? Can I talk to another board member, or does that have to be in, is that like a formal subject because it's something that we're going to be bidding on or voting on, excuse me? Can I have a conversation with other members?
Yes, you can talk amongst yourselves about your thoughts on the presentation and that sort of thing, as long as we're not lobbying for votes to go one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. For meeting as a group in total, it just,
Sure. And saying, we're
Yeah.
gonna vote this way ahead of time.
Right.
That's, just don't do that, you should be fine.
Yeah, don't talk about voting.
No voting. Nope.
Other than get out and vote today.
Yes.
Yeah.
amen.
Okay, any items for next meeting? Otherwise, we can get them to Adam and get them to the list. If there's nothing else, I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.